It worked. Did it? Is anybody there? I got to look. There we go. Hey, good evening, everybody and anybody. Just wanted to go live since, the rain dried down a little bit. As I mentioned on Facebook a little earlier, I am kind of not in isolation. I'm working this week from a trailer on my brother's property so that I can spend time going from there to work on my mother's house. The last time I did one of these, just kind of like, hey, this is what's going on in Derek's life. Things I'd mentioned that we're trying to get things together and still kind of cleaning my room. But that also means that that house where I could normally stay, I cannot. So because it's very empty and cold and there's no internet, and so I am in this trailer, and I wanted to see if this could be a much more mobile broadcasting station than it had formerly been, and so far it seems to be so. I've got this great Logitech webcam, finally a streaming camera, and I have turned off whatever extension it was that was interfering with some of the capabilities of StreamYard, which I still am enjoying as a service. Just haven't had an opportunity lately to do much with it. And as you can see right now, there is no green screen because that I don't have a portable. Technically I do, but this trailer is not big enough. And I do want to call out what I mean. Look at this. I look so much like I am in the 50s, and it's awesome. This is a 1953 Royal Spartanette that my brother picked up and restored. I'm the nerd really who writes. My brother is insanely good with his hands and with building things, and so he's restored this largely to what it might have looked like in 1953. The exception being that some of the lights are solar powered, and he's got really blazing fast internet in this thing. So it's a perfect place to work from during the day. And as it's raining, and of course it's still COVID, so I'm kind of just isolated in this trailer. I thought this was an opportunity to reach out. So, I wanted to kind of run down a little bit what's happened this week. It started off well, on Sunday. We got the trailer for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It looked really cool. Only 6 episodes, and I've got to do a little more research. I'm doing this kind of off the cuff, but it seems to me that there were more episodes initially announced. But I've had a couple of conversations with coworkers this week, and what's really interesting is this being down to 6, although probably closer to an hour in length each episode. I have talked to a lot of people in the last week that haven't realized that WandaVision isn't up for a second season, that it really is. I don't know we call it a miniseries, but Disney Plus and Marvel Studios really haven't. They just call it a series. But it's really going to be those 9 episodes, although I should also say I caught that somebody's rumoring that there's a 10th episode that they have not announced. And officially it'll just kind of drop. That's okay. But, that it really is, as I predicted a couple of years ago at D23 when Marvel Studios announced this, that it's just another movie that's super long in a different format. And I can hardly wait for all of it to drop. I'll be watching it each week, but to rewatch and enjoy. Hope that happens, that I have time to rewatch WandaVision and see how well it flows. So, if you're watching, you want to comment, and if you're enjoying it, please let me know. I see that people are, so that's awesome. Anyway, and I should also say this is not meant to take the place of the podcast. I just was off the cuff going, what am I going to do tonight? Oh, let me have this conversation. Or maybe it's just one way, but if you want to type something up and let me know you're here, that is great. So we have that trailer for Falcon and the Winter Soldier is up on Fanboy Planet, and which is fanboyplanet.com. There was also news this week that there is going to be a remake. I don't think that's the right way to put it. A new version of The Wizard of Oz. Yes, officially from Warner Brothers, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be a musical. And there was a predictable outrage. No, the original is a classic. Well, I think the so-called original, as you recall it, 1939, wonderful movie, um, is at least the third version of The Wizard of Oz that was committed to film. I watched the first one and once, and it's really disturbing. And I believe you can find it on YouTube. It's about 10 minutes long, and instead of Toto, there's a man in a donkey suit. And yeah, I said that, and it plays yeah, it's about as weird as you might think. So check that one out. There's another version with Oliver Hardy as, I think, the Scarecrow. So that was also silent in the 20s. And, there have been animated attempts at The Wizard of Oz, and it's sort of like my feeling on King Arthur right now. One, I'd love somebody to remake Camelot to be a lot closer to the stage musical than the movie version we got, although the movie version was pretty good. But I would also like just a straightforward King Arthur Knights of the Round Table rather than a rethinking. I mean, we had Excalibur. That was pretty good, too. And I also feel the same way about Robin Hood. So, Oz is a big property and a lot of opportunity to talk. And yeah, David Lampy's watching this, and David just commented, wasn't there an awful animated return to Oz? Yeah, there's a musical animated film that not a lot of people have seen from the late 60s, because I don't know how many of the Oz books are in the public domain, but a lot. And this animated one starred Liza Minnelli in the role of Dorothy. I've seen about a half hour of it, and then I recall it was on TV, and my parents were so like, this is awful, and turned it off. So I've never gone back and seen the whole thing. But there was also one just a couple of years ago. Like, it was weird. Maybe I say a couple of years ago. I've been looking at movies lately and going or release dates and articles on Fanboy Planet and going, that was 10 years ago. I realized it's been 13 years since I worked on the Greatest American Hero comic book, and that freaked me out. And I'm thinking, David, man, it's been at least 5 years since we've seen each other in person, and it feels like 2. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, there have been a lot of attempts and a lot have been bad. Now, there's a movie called Return to Oz that is a Disney film that is with Fairuza Balk, and I kind of like it. It's a lot of elements of The Land of Oz and Ozma of Oz, the second and third novels by L. Frank Baum, and it's a weird movie, but it actually does, I think, a better job of capturing the books than the MGM musical, which is now owned by Warner Brothers. It's very confusing. It gets inside baseball. That's an odd thing. But this is Warner Brothers, which does have currently the rights to the movie musical. So who knows what's going to happen there. I've been catching up, and I just want to see if anybody has comments, write in to me about who's watching Resident Alien. I was disappointed today to realize that sci-fi.com had posted the first 3 episodes, even though last week should have just been the second episode. So I foolishly jumped ahead and watched the second and third together. And then the disappointment is, well, this week there's no new Resident Alien for me, but there will be next week with Alan Tudyk, who I still maintain is one of the possibly greatest character actors of all time. And it's based on a Dark Horse comic, which I think I read the first issue a long time ago, and I need to go back and find it, because I've heard that what the TV series is different, but with kind of the skeleton of the original comic. But I'm enjoying Alan Tudyk's performance so much that it'll be interesting to compare. Really happy with that one. So catch that on Sci-Fi, and the first 3 episodes are on sci-fi.com right now. And I know, we're all still here in COVID trying to find things to watch and do. When I finished WandaVision last week, and I turned to my wife and I said, there's all these people who want to see Jimmy Woo and and I always say Kat Dennings, but that's the actor. So Randall Park and Kat Dennings in a kind of an Agents of S.W.O.R.D. spinoff. And she said, well, wasn't that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? And we both realized we hadn't watched all the way through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Rick, just like gave me all kinds of crap for years about that. So we started doing that last week, and then of course I went up here to Northern California in this trailer. So I've stopped, but I went back because we realized we had both stopped it, even though we were not to get watching at the same pace before. We both stopped at, oddly enough, the very same episode. So this is a perfect opportunity to go back and watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which discovered is not on Disney Plus, is not on Hulu, but thanks to some contractual falderall, is currently on Netflix. So, that's another game you get to play during the pandemic is where do you find the show that you want to watch? So that's a little wise tip. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. group, should I say great show? I'm in season 4. I'm enjoying it, and it's on Netflix. And speaking of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or really the connection is, be remiss to say that, of course, without acknowledging that there's been some really disappointing news in the industry, in nerddom this week. And it is both that the disappointment is, I guess I shouldn't have been surprised at all, unfortunately, that many of the actresses, if not all at this point, I think maybe by now, almost all of the actresses involved in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel have stepped forward and stood by Ray Fisher, who is Cyborg in Justice League, and reported that there was, although they are still, understandably reticent to get too much into detail, though Charisma Carpenter went pretty deep, I think, that there was a lot of misconduct on the part of the show creator, Joss Whedon. And I say that's a connection to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because he did technically create that show, although didn't create the concept, but it was a logical spin-off out of Avengers. And I can just remember being so excited every time I went to Comic-Con and heard this man speak. And there have been rumors for a long time, and I'm only saying rumors because people couldn't legally say certain things, but I think it's all coming out, and it's one of those things I think we're all wrestling with. Can we still enjoy the art? Because I know for like my daughter, Buffy the Vampire Slayer was such a formative and empowering show, and then to hear that the man who was running it seems to have been a terrible human being, and I think it's not the last we're going to hear of that story. I just feel so inadequate to talking about it, but I know that normally on the podcast I kind of dance around these things, and I just want to be like, it really upsets me that this genre, this realm that I love, has people that are horrible but whose work I admired, and that was no pun intended on Dr. Horrible, which is another one. Both my kids loved that. I loved that. I used to use it in the classroom as a great challenge, and so is it a comedy or a tragedy? And so that's this has been something I've been wrestling with this week, and if anybody else is on that same boat, I'd love to hear thoughts. I know this is a one-way stream, but I do want to be open and have kind of a conversation. You can comment below on YouTube or Facebook. I'll get to it eventually. I'm not great at doing that live other than reading when questions pop up, or you can email me at editor@fanboyplanet.com. And I do plan to resume podcasting. It was just trying to get all the rest of my life a little straighter. So we might have that conversation in the future. And then the other thing, of course, this week is Gina Carano, and if I'm mispronouncing her name, who played Cara Dune on The Mandalorian, and she has been let go. I'm sure that this is another one of those things where I feel like I we're not getting the whole story. I'm not saying that to defend Gina Carano at all, but it seems that there's been a lot more going on behind the scenes for longer than most of us have been privy to. But I'm not saying that Disney was wrong at all to do it. It's just from a purely storytelling perspective. I guess the question I would have is, would you rather see that Cara Dune be recast? I've seen a couple of great replacement actors suggested in the last day, and one including Lucy Lawless, which I don't know if she's interested. I don't know if Disney's interested, but boy, that would somehow make a lot of sense to me. So anyway, I don't want to belabor it because, like I said, I'm inadequate to the conversation. But I do want to throw that out there, that those are the things that are going. The other cancellation this week is that WonderCon announced that, that was a terrible transition. I apologize. WonderCon just announced that they are canceling WonderCon as we usually know it for this year, which but it will still have a 2-day online event. I think they tried a 3-day this last in 2020, but 2021 it will be 2, and I still don't know how I feel like 100% comfortable with what would you say with virtual conventions. It's nice. I hope that they leave panels up, but it doesn't have that energy. And something I discovered this week is, I'm still kind of cleaning up around in my mother's house, and to be honest, for many years I split my time and lived there, in particular with my kids, and so I had a lot of stuff from conventions, and I just found this beautiful hand-painted tie. I think it was hand-painted, that I bought at WonderCon, and it made me really, and I was so excited to find it. It's a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea quote. I think I posted it up on our Instagram account, and this picture of a deep sea diver and tentacles coming up. It's a gorgeous purple tie, and it's one of the very few kind of odd clothing items that I have purchased at a convention. And I just thought, again, I miss that being able to kind of walk up and down the artist alley and through it, and making these little discoveries of something cool, that, because the way my mind works, I never forget where I got it. And yet, okay, in this case, I don't remember who the artist was that I bought it from, but it was cool, and I wish that WonderCon was happening again. So if that person showed up at WonderCon, I could thank him and maybe buy something else. So that will be in March. And of course, as I record this, normally at this time I had tickets to go to Gallifrey 1, and this would be the time of by now I would be in the LAX Marriott for that convention, and that's not happening. So, that's weighing on my mind a little bit. I'm kind of bummed that we don't have those conventions. Now, the question is, will there be a Comic-Con, which is honestly as exhausting as it is, and I've said this before, and it's the last time I saw my friend David Lampy was at Comic-Con, that it's still a high point of the year. It's 6 days, well, no, technically 5, with preview night, but I go in on Wednesday morning if I can, and then leave on Monday morning. It's okay, 5.5 days of feeling like it's just, I get to forget the rest of the world. I feel the same way about Gallifrey 1, and so a lot of those emotional release valves this year are just not, they didn't happen last year, and they're not going to happen this year. Now, Comic-Con has not officially announced that it's going to become virtual again. I thought they did an okay job with it last year, but again, when you don't know what the release dates are of anything, because we don't know if we're going to go back to theaters. Disney just said, well, they're still considering a theatrical release for Black Widow, but who knows if people are going to feel comfortable going back in the theater, into a movie theater. I would love to know from you if you feel comfortable, say, by May, the usual summer movie season, and even if assuming people are vaccinated, This has died down. Would you feel comfortable? And I don't even know if it's going to look like. Well, it probably isn't going to look like what it used to look like. So there's that. So the problem with Comic-Con last summer was that the only really big movies that had panels, such as they were the New Mutants, which I still haven't seen, and I wanted to. That's a bummer. And Bill and Ted Face the Music. So they were cool, but they still didn't have that energy of being there. And yes, paying too much for a hotel and paying too much for food and buying too many books that I probably won't read for another decade. Well, half of them I won't read for another decade. Comics, definitely, I get through. So, and that's another question. Who's reading Future State? I've committed to reading the whole thing. And so maybe once I'm done with that, or as up to date as I can, then Rick and I can podcast. I'm hoping actually that will be next week, because I will be resettled back in my home in Studio City, and I will have all my equipment around me, and I'll feel much better. And it'll be warmer, because as beautiful and warm as this looks, it's cold. It's cold. It's very, very cold. So anyway, for California, please, I've got friends that are snowed in around the rest of the country. I do not mean to sound at all like a whiner. I was just trying to be funny. So anyway, and so yeah, tomorrow I'm going to sign off with this. That WandaVision episode 6, WandaVision episode 5 last week. That was amazing. And let me know, by the way, if you think I should do another Martha Vision. That's up on YouTube and on Fanboy Planet as well. Where I interviewed or conversed with my friend from 7th grade, who was not a big Marvel fan. Like, is this show making sense? And should we do a follow-up? Should it be after it's all over? Or should we be trying once more before it's all over? Like, is this still holding on to its promise? Let me know, because I know Martha would totally be up for it. So we could do a Martha Vision part 2. You let me know if that's something you'd love to see, or like to see. So I would say, though, for episode 6 tomorrow, it drops actually at midnight tonight. This is Thursday, February 11th. I'm streaming at almost 6 p.m. Pacific time. Midnight Pacific time is when it will drop. And so my request is, could you keep it to yourself, your reactions, maybe for 20 hours. I think it's really funny that I'm seeing so many of the same people who complain about Mandalorian spoilers. They're enthusiastic, you're excited, and you're spoiling, even no matter how circumspect you're being, for people who know, who are following and are making their guesses. Even if you're just saying, I was right, well, then I know what happened before I've watched the episode, because you spoiled it. Yes, this is very personal. Keep it to yourself for 20 hours. You stay up tonight, that's fine. I'm not gonna. I'm old. I accept that. And I'm cold, so I'm going to bundle up and I'm going to go to sleep. So I'll watch it as soon as I can, but 20 hours, that's all I ask. 16? Can you do 16? Can you wait 16 hours? 12 hours. Can you at least wait till noon? Because then some of us on the West Coast can watch on our lunch breaks. Maybe. Maybe we'll see. I know it's my fault. I could stay off social media. I could, and yet here I am. So clearly, I cannot. All right. So thank you for paying attention to this. And, even if you're not watching this live, by all means, comment. Again, send me. I will. I'll be looking for it. So thanks, everybody. Use your powers for good. Talk to you later. And this is awkward as I try to get the button that says end broadcast. Here it goes.